Well, let's switch gears now to another interesting issue. The federal government has stated that its 750 million World Bank-backed state action on business enabling reforms (SABR) program is aimed at generating 21 million full-time jobs and lifting 35 million people out of poverty by 2025. This was disclosed by the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council through Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, Special Advisor to the President on Ease of Doing Business, and the Secretary, PEBEC, in Abuja. Now, for further analysis on this, we have Sumbo Badejoko, a public affairs analyst who joins us virtually. Thank you so much for joining us, Sumbo.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Now, of course, this isn't the first time the Buhari administration will be talking about lifting Nigerians out of poverty. At the 61st independence speech, the president promised that his administration's goal was to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in 10 years. And now we're seeing this one talking about lifting 35 million Nigerians out of poverty by 2025. Where do you see all of this coming from?
I still see it as making the same commitment or promises in another way.
Okay.
It is still promises, which is achievable anyway, but the actions they take towards achieving that aim is what really matters. Because government is something that is holistic. So if you are setting a target and you want to achieve it, you need to approach it from a holistic dimension. If you leave certain things undone, it will definitely affect your projection. That's the challenge that this government has been facing and may likely face concerning this recent pronouncement.
Well, they are talking about, or they've been talking about 10 years. The projections seem to be projections that would outlive them, because by 2025, this administration would no longer be in power. So how feasible are all of these, considering all of the persisting or prevailing factors?
Well, government is a continuum.
Is it a continuum in Nigeria?
Yeah, it's in Nigeria. It's for the Nigeria. It's the federal government of Nigeria that is making the projection. Yes, the Buhari administration is laying the foundation, but whichever administration that takes over is supposed to continue from where this administration would have left it. But they have to, since it's starting with them and they are looking at a 10-year plan, which they will be having like 7 to 8 years out of it. They are supposed to have taken it to up to about 80% completion. If they are able to achieve 80%, then they will say yes, they would have tried. It will be easier for the next administration to run from there and complete. But if they are not able to get up to 30%, then they've done nothing. So these are things that they need to, like I said earlier, the actions they take will determine whether they will be able to achieve this aim or not. There are so many issues bedeviling this administration and the entire nation as we speak, which is taking people out of job. For instance, insecurity.
Yes, we will talk about all of the factors, but you are saying that their actions would tell if eventually they would achieve all of those promises. But from what you see, what we have currently, the administration of President Muhammad Buhari has already spent 7 years, and in the next 6 to 7 months, we would be saying goodbye to this administration. Do you see them achieving all of this?
They are not going to achieve all of it, because even the progress they are making in some sector. Look at the railway, for instance. No, it was supposed to be a revolution in that sector, but security issue has put a threat to that, and now it has gone backward. They are yet to start that revolution again. Had it been there is no issue that has confronted that, there would have been a revolution emerging from that sector, which would have a spillover effect on other sectors. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about, that the actions they take would go a long way in determining whether they would achieve their aim. Maybe I should bring that further.
Okay.
Lagos-Ibadan rail line was started and completed by them. The Abuja-Kaduna was started by the previous administration, but completed by them. Started running. We are under them. Now, it was the Abuja trail that was attacked and people were kidnapped. Do you know that because of that incident, the traffic of people that were making use of the Ibadan-Lagos rail line nosedived, and people no longer patronize the place. I visited that place last month. It was so deserted. A train was there, nobody to fill it up. because they were now afraid that this one could also be attacked. That's what I'm talking about. And before that incident, there was so many economic activities going on around the rail station in Ibadan here. The people of all doing all manner of business, POS, food vendors, all manner of merchants, cab riders, motorcycle riders coming to pick people and bringing people in and out of the place. Everywhere is deserted now because of one single act of insecurity. So if security has been checked, we would have had, an economic boom taking place around that environment. And so it's like 10 steps backward now. So they have to start all over again, building confidence of the people at using that facility and also generating fund from there. So if all things are not done well, if you leave one particular stone unturned, it would affect whatever projection that you have.
Well, I doubt they even have the time to repair the image or to, start all over again. But Nigeria's unemployment rate is estimated at 33%, coupled with the prevailing economic challenges and, of course, the surging energy cost, inflation, dwindling revenue. How bad is the situation, especially considering the fact that the World Bank also said that the population of people living below the poverty line in Nigeria is put at 91%. Sumbo.
Yes, it is bad. And unfortunately, it's still getting worse. Why? Because efforts are not being made to really ameliorate these things, because the inflation figure is still there. The price of diesel is still at what it is. It has not really calmed down. And we are yet to have a refining capacity as a nation. So these are things that would help the government in bringing down the cost of production as well as cost of commodities. So when these two goes down, one, the purchasing power of people will increase. Then even the cost of production of the companies will also increase. That will give them enough revenue to expand their capacity. So expansion of the capacity of this company means absorbing more people out of the labor market and reducing the unemployment rate. So if they don't do all of this, the figure will keep increasing because more businesses are collapsing. Power is out of it. Between January and now, the grid has collapsed for like 7 times. Even of recently, the Transco workers wanted to go on strike on one flimsy ground. And that's the main aspect of the power sector that is controlled 100% by government. That's the transition company. The generation is
40%.
privatized. The distribution is privatized.
40% controlled by the government.
Situation not working, it's going to affect the current challenges that we are facing. It will rather make it worse. But when you see steps being made, for instance, there are legislations that can help in reducing this thing. I want to see power going off the exclusive list and coming to the concurrent list so that states can go. I want to see the grid being unbundled. Let it be a backup and not the major source of supply, so that the industrial area can be concentrated upon by giving adequate power supply to reduce their cost of production, and that will enable them to expand their capacity and create more jobs.
Well, when you talk about the economy, especially when it has to do with job creation, we know that Nigeria has been going up, improving in ranking when it comes to the ease of doing business. The last ranking showed that we were 131st place. That's from 146, meaning that the ease of doing business is improving. But it looks like that's not reflecting in the business environment in the country.
Why it's improving is because of the MSME clinic that the Office of the Vice President is able to, they've been able to reduce the bottleneck, which centers around registration of companies and all the government bureaucracy has been reduced. So that is what is making the MSME to expand at that level. But in the reality, the running cost for these even new companies that are emerging is still on the high side. So it's affecting their expansion capacity. That's why we are not seeing that effect that you are talking about.
So apparently we just have it on paper. It's not reflective in the...
Yes, we are having more companies coming up with limited capacity to reduce the unemployment figure.
Talking about companies coming up, there's also the issue of foreign companies leaving the country. For instance, we heard the story of the Emirates airline leaving or planning to leave the country by September 1, and there are also notions or reports that some other foreign airlines would also leave the country. It means that this would, of course, have a detrimental effect on the economy. And do we have what it takes to, revert some of these actions?
For multinational organizations and foreign companies that you mentioned, they would always make a comparison between the environment here and the environment elsewhere that they are doing business. So if the environment locally in Nigeria is not favorable to them, they will definitely relocate to where they will have a favorable environment. Pending the time the situation will improve here and they will come back. It's not that they are going outrightly, but they can no longer cope with the condition, the stringent condition at which they are doing their business. Because when you have a company that is at the full capacity to maintain 100 staff, and now because of the condition they've downsized to like 70, that means they're already struggling. Because the work the 70 will do cannot be compared with, in terms of production output, cannot be compared with that of 100 people. So, and if they now are faced with the situation of reducing that further, they are already planning to close because it's going to collapse the entire organization. That is what they are battling with. Suppose they are not, they don't have to pay that much on aviation fuel for those airline companies. Suppose they don't have to, aviation coil is talking about the fuel that their aircraft will use to travel. Suppose they don't have to pay much on diesel or other alternative source of power supplies to even maintain the administrative works and the gadgets that they are having. It would increase their turnover and also enable them to not throw people out of job, but to bring more people in. Then the manufacturing sector, they have so many, apart from power, even access to raw materials, bringing them from wherever to the factory is an issue. The local mining industry is not viable because all the mining sites have been taken over by private. Even the ones that are viable that are agricultural based, moving those agricultural produce from the base to the factory is even at a high cost because these trucks will use diesel to move those items. And by the time the cost of raw material is higher, they will, okay, let's try and import from other countries. Cost of freight is still there. The challenges of the climate change is also still there. And these are things that they are all battling with, which is not favorable to them. So they would rather look for, okay, let's move source to the source of raw material. We can manufacture from there and bring in the finished product. And that's why, in terms of value chain and local content for Nigerian Nigerian made goods, it is actually on the low side, and that is why our balance of trade deficit is not favorable to this country.
Okay, let's look at this fund, the $750 million World Bank-backed state action on business enabling reforms. Is it a loan or is it some form of intervention by the Central Bank of Nigeria?
It's not a loan, it's an intervention.
Okay.
It's an intervention. It's just meant to support. It's a grant coming in, and the government is saying they want to channel it towards that cause, which is a good thing and a welcome development. But Nigerian with corruption, that is another monster.
I was going to come to that.
This administration has failed to combat or confront, which is also affecting the progress they have been made. They're able to pick rather.
So what are the chances that this would, be used appropriately, channeled to the proper quarters, and not be, cornered or pocketed by some allies of the government?
If there's a change in approach, they stand a better chance of achieving their aim. But if there's no change in approach, when I say change in approach, I mean overhauling the system. All those that will be involved, make sure they are right pegs in the right hole. Not people will be going there with personal interest. Let them be patriotic individuals, and let there be checks and balances.
And monitoring also.
Yes, you don't just put some people there. Let there be monitoring mechanism. Then let the public be aware of what is going on, so that they can also follow through and do the checking and monitoring for you. But when they do all this, people would be able to hold those who are in charge accountable. And when they know that people are watching them, they will do the right thing.
Absolutely. Well, that's a fine place to leave it. Thank you so much for your thoughts on the show. Sumbo Badejoko, Public Affairs Analyst. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Have a good day. All right, after the break, Brent crude futures advanced to 93 cents or 1% to $97.41 a barrel in early trade after a choppy session on Monday. Bringing details in a moment. Please stay with us.